recording. Right, Nicki Jarvis, I am talking to you today about fertility in the workplace. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time today. Can you
That's okay.
Can you start by telling me about Accenture, the company you work for, and what you do?
So Accenture is a big consulting and technology organisation. So we do anything from industry experts to technology specialists, and we provide services, so IT services for lots of different companies. It's very big, so there's about 500,000 people worldwide. So, over the years through acquisitions and other, we've become very big. In the UK, it's probably about 12,000 people, so it's a very big organisation.
That is a lot of people.
Yes.
And when you think about, how many people are actually, struggling with fertility within your company alone, that's a hell of a lot of people, which is why I'm really excited about some of the things that your company is doing to support men and women who are, struggling to conceive or perhaps going through fertility treatment. But I'm pick your brains about that in a bit. But can we start by talking about your own journey, your own fertility journey?
Yeah, sure. So about 6 or so years ago, so I'm now 43, and about 6 or so years ago, just after we got married, actually, I met my husband late in life. I was 31. So by the time we got married, I was 34. And then we started having children, or trying to have children, the next year. And basically after about 12 months, I was like, something's not right. You just know that, if you're trying that hard and it's not happening, something's not right. So I decided to go and get checked out. Went to my local doctor, had all the tests, and then got referred to another fertility doctor, actually, who then inspected my ovaries and basically told us in that session that I had very little chance of having a natural pregnancy on my own, that I only had about 2 eggs one side and none the other. So that's kind of very low for that age, for sort of 34, 35. And that my only option was IVF, pretty much. So it's quite shocking, really, because you sit there thinking, I've just been told I can't have children. And it was really quite hard to take, because it's bad enough that you then think you can't have this dream that you'd always had, but also that you're letting someone else down. So like my husband, sitting there thinking I can't give him children, it was devastating. But I think given the news that we then took away, we thought we really wanted it badly, so we decided to go for it. So we said, right, we're going to do IVF regardless and give it a go. And then it was about a 2-year journey of kind of finding out about clinics, looking into what we could do locally, because I live in Cheltenham, so our local options were Bristol and Cheltenham. So Bristol and Oxford. So from Cheltenham we could go to Bristol Hospital or Oxford Fertility Unit. We looked at the HEFA website, we looked at the statistics for those both of those clinics, and decided on Oxford because it's also affiliated with the university and stuff like that. And I looked at the statistics, and for my age group, I think it was 36 by that point, it had said 25%. So in my mind, I decided we'd need to do it 4 times, because the math said 25 times 4 is 100. So I think that was my coping mechanism for how I got through, that it may not work the first time.
I've never thought of it like that. I've never thought of it like
It's quite dummy maths, but I was kind of like, it's never going to work first time. If it's a 25% chance, it's pretty low, right? So, and also the older you get, the lower that gets. So we did pretty much go for it straight away. And then I was, having the tests locally, went through the entire process. So what's called down regulation that you do first to reset everything, and then started injecting in terms of, the fertility drugs. And I was actually on the road a lot in those days. I was always in London and I was staying over. So I bought myself this little mini fridge to hold the pens, because, the injection pens need to be kept at a certain, I thought, I'm not going to go into the office or into the hotels I stayed in and go, excuse me, can I put this in the fridge? So I decided to buy this little mini fridge I took everywhere with me, plugged it in, kept the pens with me. And I'll never forget it. I was in pubs with my friends, popping off to the toilet in the evening because it had to be done at the same time every day, injecting myself and coming back out and carrying on the conversation. It was quite a surreal time.
Yeah.
But I did that so the first round that we did was kind of in the summer of probably 2014, and then by the time we got to kind of egg extraction and then putting them back, I think I had 5 eggs that were viable once I'd had all the scans, and then luckily all 5 had fertilized. So we were lucky that we had 5 effectively what could become embryos. And then I think a couple of days later, they then rang us and said, so 2 have kind of progressed on and 3 haven't done anything. So we're going to put those 2 back as quickly as possible. So I went straight back in. They then put the 2 embryos back in. We left the hospital, called them, for some reason, called them Bert and Ernie. We had Bert and Ernie going back from the hospital. And then about, I think it's the 2-week wait. Everyone knows about the 2-week wait. We had to wait until we took the pregnancy test. But literally a couple of days before my test, I then started bleeding, and I thought, I knew it hadn't happened. It hadn't worked. So the first one, you know, nothing actually came of that. We then kind of went towards the Christmas period, and I think that the clinics were closed, so we had to wait until sort of January, February. And it's good to give your body a break between treatment anyway. And then the second time we had a similar experience. So 5 eggs extracted, all of which then fertilized, and then again 2 progressed on. 1 wasn't sure, and then two didn't do anything. So they then decided again to put the 2 back. So I had 2 embryos put back the second time as well. That time when we left hospital, we'd been told 1 was better quality than the other one. So we thought at least 1 might work. And then luckily 2 weeks later, the morning of the pregnancy test, I took the test and it was negative, and I was really sort of disheartened and thought, that's it, it's not worked again. By the afternoon, I'd left it upstairs and I popped back up and I checked it, and I was like, there's a really faint pink line. What does that mean? So I rang the clinic, and they said, well, you have to take another one tomorrow morning. So I then went out and bought another one, did the test the next morning, and it luckily was pink. And I was like, okay, so I am pregnant. I mean, what a roller coaster. I spent an entire day thinking it hadn't worked again. But really luckily, the second time it had worked. And then we went for our 7-week scan, because you have an early one normally, and there was one heartbeat. So we were like, it's worked, fantastic. So I was really, really lucky that second time around. And then obviously, as you do, we went back into the system, and you just go through a normal pregnancy with, you know, with the local doctors and the hospitals, and you have a few more scans with fertility treatment, but you know, it was pretty normal. And then luckily had Jensen in November of 2016. So, and we called him Jensen from the day we left the clinic, because my husband's into racing, as in racing cars, and it stuck. And it was a joke name because my surname's Jarvis. Jensen Jarvis is ridiculous. We spent months calling it Jensen, and then in the summer the parents were going, you are going to call it Jensen, right?
Oh.
And then I think on the day he was born, I was going, no name, we're going to decide. And Andy just started calling him Jensen. So he's always been Jensen Jarvis from literally when we left the clinic. And now he's this gorgeous 4-year-old that you'll have seen on LinkedIn, interrupting my calls. He's hilarious. So we were really, really lucky second time. And that was my kind of experience of it.
I love the name Jensen. I have met Jensen Button. And
have you?
Yes.
Oh, you're so lucky.
He presented an award at the Brits one year, and they brought him to me early, like too early, which usually is quite cringy because you think, oh God, I've got to make conversation. And I did not matter. It did not matter this time because he was so charming. Like, so he's definitely my this. But so when you were going through IVF the first and the second time and being at work, how was that?
It was tricky. I was also at a sort of point in my career where I was looking at promotion and I was trying to work out what to do. I mean, I decided to focus on having a family and not worry so much about it. And I had a really, really good boss anyway, and she was very supportive. But I decided to tell her because I thought, given everything that I'm going to have to go through, all of the appointments that I'm going to have to make, and you know, knowing that it's I knew it would be a tricky and emotional time. It already had been. So I shared with her that I was going through it, and she was amazing because she'd had one of her friends who never actually, you know, had lots and lots of IVF and never made it. So she was very sympathetic. But it's a really tricky thing because you think, you know, most people get pregnant 3 months later, then they can choose to tell their bosses. They don't have to. So it was a risk, but actually it paid off, and it was probably the best thing for me because it meant every step of the way, every time something happened, every time I had an appointment, or in the first case when it didn't work, I had massive support from her and work saying, take the time you need, come back, you know, when you're ready, don't worry about it, because it was, you know, because we'd obviously then lost the pregnancy. So it was a positive thing for me. And HR, I mean, are always there. So you know, you've got the discretion of HR in any company. You should be able to get, you know, that support. But also when I spoke to HR, they also told me that Accenture provides 10 days fertility treatment days off. So you get 10 paid days a year to go and have appointments, to go and, you know, when you actually have extraction day, it's pretty much the whole day out of the office. So they are really massively supportive of it. And it, you know, it really helped me just in terms of being, you know, more relaxed, because you have to be relaxed through the process, and also, you know, knowing that I'd got people, you know, supportive of me. I did the same with my friends. I told a few select friends because I wanted them to know what I was going through and to be able to help me, because I thought, if I'm not being myself, I'm a socially bubbly, loud person, right? If I'm not being myself, if I'm going through something or I'm really upset, I wanted them to know so that they could support me rather than wondering what was wrong with me or asking me. It was just easier for me. And not everybody's like that. Not everybody wants to talk or share, but it helped me to kind of get through it. I think second round of IVF, we chose to tell fewer people, because otherwise everybody's kind of knows everything every step of the way. And when it doesn't work, it's a really hard thing to then tell them again. So we kind of reduced it a bit the second time. But actually my friends were all amazing, and it was just great to have that network of people when I was upset after the first time and it didn't work, that you've got people that can kind of just give you a hug. They don't have to say anything, just give you a hug and make you feel better about it. I was lucky.
With me, it was so my journey took 4 years, and it was on the very last year that, you know, people knew that I was going through IVF, or it was, you know, I was at least trying. And it was in that final year that I lost count, though, of the amount of people that would start apologizing before announcing their pregnancies.
And
it was then I thought, oh man, this is not good. And I always thought, oh my God, you know, being a freelancer, you just, I felt quite, I don't know, I always thought, well, I don't have anyone looking after me. There isn't a company looking after me. But actually, listening to what you're saying, it's easier being freelance, because I can go in just for one day on a job and put on a fake smile and come home and then not see those people the next day. But going into an office every single day and having to suppress, you know, grief, sadness, you know, anger, all of those emotions must be so bloody hard.
Yeah, it's tricky, I think, which is another reason telling people was easier for me, because it meant they knew what I was going through and they could help me. But I think everybody handles it differently. And I, like I said, I mean, I figured 25% meant it would take 4 goes. So I think I was almost setting myself up for the worst, so that I knew I could handle it and then hope that it would happen the second or the third time. But I mean, just in general, there's you know, lots of people that will, you know, I think everybody has builds it up to be something in their head, but actually when you tell people, it becomes so much easier. It's almost like a problem shared, a problem, you know. I think that's definitely true. It's definitely a better way to be, but it's down to the individual. It's totally personal. And I think I work with I work in IT really, and I work with a lot of men, and that can be quite a challenge as well, because you think it's quite an intimate process, and even just trying to describe it to people or explain it, you know, eyes kind of go wide and they don't really know. It's quite an incredible thing, because, you know, even just the extraction process or putting it back and everything that you can kind of explain to them. So I think for me, it was almost like my protection mechanism was to make it clinical, to describe it in a way that kind of, it was almost out of body. It wasn't me, it was happening to somebody else. I was describing it as a story of what happens, and then I would get on with my normal life. So I didn't let it stop me. So if I was, you know, if I was in London, because I was staying overnight a lot, if I was in London, I bought this little mini fridge to carry the pens around, so I didn't have to deal with the hotel asking questions about what I want to put in their fridge. And I could, you know, I could go for a drink. Obviously I wasn't drinking, but I could go for a drink in the evening with my friends, and I could pop off to the toilet, do the injection, come back and have a normal evening. It was almost like my mechanism was la la la, it's, you know, I'm just getting on with it. It's just a part of life now. That's what I have to do. It's what we have to do to get pregnant. We'll just do it. And I think I genuinely believe if people want something badly enough, you will do anything that is possible to get what you want. And, you know, and I wondered myself, after 4 goes, would I have then done another one? You just don't know, do you? I mean, I was really, really lucky that second time we caught and we had Jensen, but would I have carried on? Probably, because how can you not? It's such a tough thing.
Yeah. Your coping techniques are incredible. You are really, 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 really strong. But then, you know, I think most women going through IVF have this inner strength. They don't feel it at the time.
Yeah.
But my God, you know, to actually get up every day and deal with those emotions and deal with the physical, you know, the physical side of IVF is hardcore.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And so you then, so you had your fertility journey, you had your son, and
Yeah.
and now you're now helping people in the company, aren't you?
Yes. So, I mean, what was interesting was when I did actually go off the first time, so with Jensen, when I was going through the IVF and I talked to HR, I heard about the fertility days, but there wasn't really anything else. I mean, there was no community, there was no kind of, you know, place to go or person championing it or anything like that. So I thought to myself, when I come back, I really want to create something like that for people. And I think roughly around the time I was due to come back in the summer after Jensen, I then I got an invite to a talk with some fertility professional with Accenture colleagues. So it was kind of like something Accenture had set up. And I thought, this is great. How cool. So I decided to connect with these people because I didn't go in because I was off on maternity leave at the time, but I connected with these people. And then when I got back into the office and I was back in full time, I then connected with Sally, who was kind of trying to champion fertility at the time. And she and I then, because I was so, you know, passionate about, I want other people to know we get the fertility days. I want other people to know that, you know, they've got a place to come. I'm happy to be open. And by being open, I want others to feel like they can talk. So I'm happy to kind of, you know, put myself out there and create a community for people to come to. And what we did was, at the time, I think there's something internally that we have anyway in Accenture called Accent on Family. And it's basically an entire organization of people that are doing kind of side of desk. So it's not their day job. They do it because of love and because they want to help other people internally. And they are supported by leadership in terms of, there's a managing director sponsor for it. You know, they've got an entire monthly meetings and organizations set up, and it's not just for kind of, you know, I mean, fertility became one of the new things, but they also cover caring for elders, because that's a challenge for a lot of people in our world. They have the, you know, when people are going off on maternity leave, we give them, you know, support in what to do while you're off, when to come back, have a buddy when you come back. So there's all these great things as part of Accent on Family. And Sally and I then decided that fertility needed to be one of those pillars and that we needed to own this. Yeah. And luckily, I think at the time she was just going through about her 4th or 5th round of IVF, and she then got pregnant. So she's now off at the moment and coming back soon. So that'll be exciting. But we managed to get it off the ground before she left. And what we did was we created a website for people to go to that had like links and FAQs and, you know, our names. And then we also started having a kind of monthly or bi-monthly call just to talk about things like this, because they don't get talked about, and invited pretty much the entire UK company. So 12,000 people could come if they wanted to. And the great thing is that the HR lead candidate also sends a kind of monthly note with all of the, you know, here's all the great things we're doing that you could join in, and includes the Fertility Fridays, which is what I've now called them. And that gets us great response from people. I mean, with the last couple of ones we've done, we've had over 40 people come and listen or talk about, so miscarriage, endometriosis, recently IVF Babble, which was fantastic. You know, what are the support things out there for people, and a community of people to talk to about it as well. And in parallel, we kind of, one of the things I thought was, we started off, and we, you know, it's always a bit rough when you do the first few. We started off doing some story sharing, and a few people like me and a couple of the really kindly, some of the male MDs in my company who are great, decided to share their story with people to empower people to talk about it. But a lot of people didn't want to actually respond, or, you know, because in a group of, you know, at the time it was probably about 20 people don't want to share that stuff in front of anybody else. So we decided to do one-to-ones. So I then started a series of kind of bi-monthly one-to-ones where I'd offer 15 minutes, come talk to me. I'm no expert, but I've been through it. If you want to ask anything. And I've had people ask so many questions, like, I'm 38 and I'm single, do I freeze my eggs? To, you know, I'm going through IVF at the moment and I'm really struggling. All of those sort of, you know, anything and everything goes. And I just open it up to enable people to do that. So it's really just showing that we've got somewhere for people to go, and also that, you know, and to promote the fact that we give fertility days. You can have 10 days off paid for by the company to deal with everything that comes with IVF, because there's so many appointments, there's so many, you know, scans, and then, you know, when you have your eggs out and then put back, that's a couple of days you probably need to have out, and it allows people to kind of not have the stress of everything else as well. So yeah, we have all of that going on, but it's kind of been since I got back, we've kind of really driven it. And it just takes a few of us to kind of be passionate about it and to support each other in trying to organise stuff and open it out to
blows
people.
my mind to think that a company can care so much for their employees. And again, I keep coming back to myself, because all I've ever known is the freelance television world. And really, we have a saying, like, a well-fed crew is a happy crew, right? Which basically means that productions, they just make sure that we've got good catering on site that day. Because if we have a nice meal, we're all happy and we work better. That's as far as it goes. You know, that's as far as our care goes, really. And so to hear that you've got this incredible setup, not only for fertility, but
caring for the elderly and
it's like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. If you look after and nurture the people that work with you, then they're going to be better humans, but mentally and physically, because they've had that space and that headspace and that care. It just makes
there's so many more people like me that are doing that, you know, passionately off the side of the desk, not even, you know, as a day job. And even with, you know, once people have got pregnant, we then do kind of so sessions for people to what to expect when you're going off. I've even put spreadsheets together of, you know, how to work out how much time off you're allowed, and you know, what sorts of things to buy and things like that. So we kind of just all help each other. It's really nice. And everybody has been so supportive of me, because I've kind of gone, I really want to do this. I've had people that have not been through it themselves or nothing to do with it, you know, like Laura and Sophie, and they've just jumped on board and helped me and tried to do stuff like that. And then we even have, you know, so Sophie covers adoption, which is brilliant, because it's kind of like almost the journey of, you know, if it doesn't work, what else, what next? And it went through my mind, you know, if the IVF had never worked, what else would we do? Would we do donor? Would we do, you know, adoption? Would we do something else? So just having somebody who's there that can talk about those things and you can ask questions of, you know, it's great that it's out there in the world. And you know, I didn't know about the fantastic stuff you guys do at IVF Babble at the time. Now that I do, I'm like, we should promote this. It should be part of our kind of, you know, telling everybody what's out there for them, because the more people talk about it, I think the easier it is for them to deal with it, and they know that they're not alone, because there's so many people going through it. I mean, everyone always thinks, oh, it's so easy, you know, so easy to get pregnant, you're always trying to avoid it. It's actually really hard, and the older you get, it's even harder. So it's kind of like you don't realize quite, you know, how big an impact it can have as well. And actually just being able to take some of that time off, you know, just knowing that I've taken the pressure off of a couple of days, just not, you know, not worrying about work or anything like that, because just having that internal policy that means that we support people in that way is just amazing.
So you're doing Fertility Fridays, is that every Friday?
That's what I called it. Cringeworthy, but it's not necessarily every month. It's pretty much every other month, unless I've got really good speakers and when I've got the time. But we get, I mean, we've had, and this is another part of Accenture actually, so we get medical insurance from AXA, and they both provide what's called the employee assistance line, which is free counselling if you need it for anybody in the company in the UK, well, globally. They can ring a number if they need support on anything, mental health, you know, going through fertility, whatever it is. But then they've also been supportive in terms of, I've gone to them and said, I want to set up some sessions on miscarriage. They brought me a midwife. We had a really great kind of clinical session on what does it mean to actually lose a baby. And, you know, it was a really tough topic, but actually just getting somebody to explain it that's professional helped other people kind of understand. I mean, people that had been through miscarriages joined that call and went, there's stuff in there I didn't even know, and I didn't know I was going through. And then it also, you know, a few people then start volunteering to share, and you kind of go, this is what we want. We want everybody to be able to talk about it. That's what it's all about. It's like, don't make it taboo. Don't make it embarrassing. I'm proud of the fact that, you know, I have 2 sons now. I had IVF. It was a different route. And, you know, it's like, we still got there. And I had to not let myself kind of believe that, you know, oh, it's my fault or any of that. So it's just what happens, you know, it's what turned out. That's what happened in life. I was just really lucky that we had a way to have children. And I think, you know,
that is amazing. But that attitude, and that's the attitude I have now. But the reason I have that attitude now is because people are talking.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't have that attitude. And, you know, I've said to you before, I was very ashamed. In fact, I was the complete opposite, because no one was talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, because I was, you know, a freelance floor manager going into work, No one's talking about it. Fake smile, showbiz. And so I was just like, oh my God, I can't mention this at all, and like I've said before, to the point when they were born, I was like, please don't tell anyone they're IVF, to my husband. But now that this conversation has opened up, I'm like, oh my God, my babies are IVF, and I'm so proud because I work so damn hard for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not only the fact that I worked hard, but like you said, it's an alternative.
We're just lucky. Modern science is so amazing.
Yes.
And can help so many people. We're just so lucky.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for everybody, and there are other routes, but at least there are options, and at least the more people talk about, the more people understand it, the easier it is to kind of to go through it, and the more we can support. I mean, that's, if I can help one person by saying, hey, I've been through it, and these were the lows and these were the highs, and this is how I dealt with it. If it helps them, then that's what it's all about. It's like supporting each other to go through the same thing, especially because you learn a lot on that journey, right? I think I remember we've spoken before about, you and Tracy kind of having that sort of longer term kind of stumbling your way through and not really knowing what's going on, doctors trying to decide stuff. I can now go to people and go, you know what, if you're early 30s and you're not sure, get tested. Because if I could go back in time and I could have tested myself at 30, because what I didn't say is that the reason I ended up having IVF is because what the doctor said was, did my mother have early menopause? And I went, I have no idea, right? Not a question I've ever asked, not a conversation we've ever had. So I rang her that night, obviously devastated from the news, but then rang her that night and said, did you have early menopause? And she goes, well, I was 42. I'm going, okay, that's really early. And actually, this was probably hereditary, probably there all along. I was always probably going to, my eggs were going to expire early, and I never knew. So the more that you can know, the more you can find out, the more you can get tested, the more empowered you are to then make decisions about your own life and to go and do things like have IVF or not.
Yeah,
I think, I wouldn't necessarily change things, because I only met Andy when I met it. We met later in life. We had a nice time. We then got married later. But it's nice to know what your options are, and at any age, and then be able to talk about them and choose a route rather than kind of being in the dark and not knowing.
Well, just to finish off, because I know you've got to get back to work. I've stolen you for quite a long time.
Right.
But, and I know it's hard for you to say for somebody that doesn't work for Accenture, but if somebody's listening and think, oh, I wonder if my company offers anything like that, where do people go? How do they find out?
I would say start with HR, because they will always know what the policies are, what a company will allow, and also hopefully would be able to support you in that way. So HR are there just for that, and reach out to kind of, like the likes of IVF Babble. I mean, now that you're out there, the more that people know about you and the more support you give from a community perspective, the better things are for people. So I think that's probably where I would start with HR and find out. But I think it's becoming more common now. I see more and more companies, and especially because in the early days when I started kind of doing the champion role internally, I put it out there on LinkedIn and I went, I'm going to go and see who else is doing stuff. And I had a really great guy from BT literally completely randomly reach out and go, it's so fantastic you're putting this out there. I've been through it. I've now got 2 little girls. If there's any way we can collaborate, let's do it. And I thought, fantastic, right? This is what we need. We need a community of people, regardless of where they work and what they do, of helping each other. And I think, start there and find out what's available. And then actually, if it's important enough, push, because that's all I did. I went internally and said, we really need to do something about this. And I'm lucky that I have, leadership that actually are really supportive of all that stuff. So they enabled me to do that. They were like, yeah, go set up these calls. We'll support you. We'll help you. So as long as you're in a good organization, they should support whatever you try and do. And if you want to get it out there, I'm happy to share what we did. It's, it's not rocket science. I stumbled my way through a lot and creating FAQs and trying to build a site for people to go to, but it's all possible. And you can either do it yourself or talk to other people, but there's always support out there. I mean, like I said, IVF Bubble's perfect example. If I'd have known about you back in the day when I first went off, it would have been a massive support to me, just to know that there were lots of other people going through the same.
Yeah, that is the key. Well, thank you so much for everything you're doing. You are truly, truly brilliant, and they're very, very lucky to have you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm lucky that they support it and that I can do something I'm passionate about whilst I'm also trying to work. So it's good.
You're amazing, and have me and Tracy back whenever you want, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be fantastic. I think we should do it regularly if we keep these things going every 6 months or so.
Thank you, Nicki.
But yeah, that's okay. It's really lovely to talk to you, Sarah. Cool. Okay, bye.